Greetings, dear perceptive souls. This is Bevan Neiman, and I'm coming to you today a day before the historic event of the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I want to say congratulations to both of them, particularly Kamala Harris, who becomes the first Black and Asian American woman to hold one of the highest offices in the land. It actually gives me hope that in my lifetime, a woman will step in to the role of President of the United States and be seen as an equal partner in leadership. I'm really excited about where we're going with that. There are many, spiritual teachers or leaders out there who do not want to touch politics with a 10-foot pole, but I am not one of them. I've made a decision a long time ago in my life. When I was a child, I was even drawing these pictures of Richard Nixon and Watergate, listening to my parents. And so that sort of dates me. But, I've been engaged in what's happening with the collective, and like many empaths have that ability to tap into that energy, watching and observing the larger human patterns that are happening, while also having, a very visceral human experience of that as well. We're meant to have both of those things. It's fine to elevate ourselves. It's also good to be really grounded and rooted in what's happening. And of course, these past 4 years, and then the past year in particular, have been extremely challenging for everyone around the world. I hold deep compassion. As I've been talking with my clients lately, people are getting weary. There was so much energy that was put in running up to this election, and trying to release old models of power, of narcissism, of fascism, of racism, sexism. It was exhausting, quite frankly, to hold that line and say, no, we are not going to have that kind of leadership in this country or around the world. It's exhausting sometimes to hold that line. We did it. We made that progress. We made that shift. So yes, there's this beautiful chance to take a moment and just breathe. And yet what I will say is that even though there are two people entering office who are much more compassionate, empathetic, if you will, truly caring about other human beings, they will be entering a system which has been in place for many, many years, and it has progressed to a place where they are going to be faced, just like any other leader, with making decisions based on conflicting needs of constituents, conflicting desires, conflicting pressures, if you will. There will still be the lobbyist system that we have in the United States, where large corporations and certain people with interests, especially those who have a lot of money, are able to really leverage that power and put pressure on their officials in the way that, say, an average citizen does not have the ability to do. It's not like that just went away just because we made a change of who's at the head of this country. And, what I really hope and desire, and then I will get to the cards here in just a moment, because there's some really interesting energy. A lot of earth energy came out today, some fire, a lot of deep healing, and several different messages that I want to provide. Is that this work has just begun, and it continues on. For anyone who's following our transition from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, from leaving behind that duality mentality of this person's right, this person's wrong, all of those kinds of things, we're moving into a place where we are looking at unity. Now, I've seen all kinds of talk about unity. People are like, we need to unify. And yes, that's true. We do need to unify. We do need to find common ground. We also have to find that balance point between the needs of the individual and the needs of the collective. And sometimes we're not sure exactly where one sort of overruns the other, right? If it's too collective, then there's sort of a centralized power that has, too much power over individuals, too much power to tell us, what we can and cannot do and how we can live our lives. And Of course, Americans are very much about individualism. It's just the spark of our culture. This is the foundations of where we are. Um, and yet, and yet, our foundations often dismiss the needs of the collective and the needs of individuals. I mean, this country was founded on the spark of pioneerism. It was also founded on the spark of slavery and colonialism and taking power over. Both of those things are true, that an individual person who went out and, forged their way in the wilderness here in the United States was also a person that was probably causing detriment to the environment and to Native peoples. And, obviously slavery was the way that this was built. And so we just inaugurating a president and a vice president does not change that. It does not erase that. It does not eliminate our past history, right? It does not eliminate. I wanted to bring this card forward, which is the card of the child, the innocence. And yet you see the pedestal on which she stands. So she's beautiful, right? She's high vibrational. She has the hummingbird coming in here. And yet the pedestal on which she stands is broken. There is no root. There's no foundation. This is the foundation of the United States. And it is the foundation for many people, not only in the US, but around the world, who start off in childhood from a place of dysfunction, codependency, abuse, poverty. There's so many ways that this pedestal, this foundation that we stand upon and that we grow upon is not supportive for us. And I would say that if there's anything that we could do and we could focus on, I mean, there's so many things and so many issues we need to focus on. But if we could focus on how do we reduce or eliminate the trauma that children experience, because as we know, as adults, and all of you have probably doing your healing work out there, there are many people I know that are going into multi-generational patterning and looking at that and deciding to turn the wheel in another direction for their family system. We must pay attention to this. It's, being a parent is the most important job. We get all tangled up about job titles and what status we have, but damn, being a parent, raising the next generation, bringing forward those children who are going to then, carry our legacy forward into the next, generations, millennia. There's nothing more important than that. There's nothing more important than that. And I love this card. This is the youth, it's like a teenager, right? And this is where the United States is. We're not quite in our infancy stage, but we are definitely in our teenager stage. We're rebellious. We are divisive. We don't listen well. We want to do our own thing, right? And it's saying there is a staff of wisdom, but we are only part of the way up. We have not reached our hand up here. We have a little bit of grounding in the earth, and there's a sort of blind loyalty sometimes to patriotism and things, which I find like completely insane. It's like the country is an artificial divider. Like we decide geography, like where's Mexico end and where's the United States begin? It's just like an artificial divider. It's like somebody said, oh, I'm going to put stakes in the ground and here's where it is, but it's contiguous land. The same thing with Canada. So it's just like the way that we like put our stake in the ground and the way that we like hold, like when you're a teenager, you think you know everything. You think like you are the bomb. And this is where we are right now. This is the part of the cycle that we're in. And there's something bigger here. There's a lot of mountains still to climb for us to be able to earn the right to hold that staff at a higher level. And this is true for us as a human species. I mean, we're probably in this level, like as a human species. We're like, okay, we're past toddler stage, we're past the childhood stage. But now we just don't know how to get along with each other. We don't know how to get along with authority. We don't know how to set up systems and structures. We're just immature, as human beings. And this is just one step. Tomorrow's inauguration is just one step, one historical moment in our continuing evolution as human species. And so the next card that comes out is the journey, right? And so in the US, we've been through this like period of darkness, this period of darkness. And there were many people who held the light through that period of darkness, where we had to sort of fight and we had to say, no, this is not going to happen this way. And we had to stand up and people marching. Now we're coming out into a lighter area, but we still carry that forward. That doesn't just go away. I mean, a third of Americans voted for someone who is willing to incite people to take down the existing government of our country. I mean, that's the reality of it. We were willing to vote, a third of Americans were willing to vote for someone who is blatantly racist, blatantly connected with white supremacy groups, blatantly sexist in the way that he looks at and treats women, just completely selfish and self-centered. And so that doesn't go away. That doesn't go away just because it's like, oh, we hit this artificial time period. And after this, there's a new administration. There's a lot of work to do here. We have a long journey. We can't just deny our past. We can't just deny that shadow self. It's still present. It's still going to be very much present. And, we're still, as we leave this age of Pisces, this division, right? The dark and the light, the right and the wrong, the, science versus, religion, all the different ways that we've explored duality in this human experience. We're still going to be doing that. It's going to take some time for us to start to embrace and define and explore what unity looks like. And we are just taking like the literal first step into that process. And there's much more to go. As I mentioned, Earth came up a lot in this reading. And so we have, the one of Earth, the one of Pentacles, right? So, the material plane, the earthly plane, this really speaks to me about particularly how our economic and financial systems have really hurt us, actually. Like we have thought that this was great. It was good for us to like make a free market and have capitalism and make products and services and hustle and, try to compete with other people and establish yourself in the marketplace. And gosh, it's really interesting because I actually am a business mentor for sensitive people. But what I envision with this, and this is really just holding this little vision here, is that looks very different. So this aspect of doing business, of doing commerce and trade has been around historically since the beginning of time. I had a particular gift, you had a particular gift, you made something, you exchanged it for me. That's normal and natural. But what we've gotten into is this sort of the dragon, like hoarding spirit, where, it's like, how much can you hoard in your bank account? How much can you gain? How big of a house can you have? What is your stock value? All these things that we have made so important. And it's like, how do we re-envision this? The One of Pentacles asks us to go back to the very beginning and re-envision what an equitable financial system, an economic system. I personally believe that we have every resource we need to ensure that every human being on earth has their basic needs met. And we don't need to do that because they have to earn it or they have to work for it, or some people get more because they were born into a wealthier family. I believe like people should have food, shelter, water, safety, a sense of community. These are just human rights. These are human rights, medical care. These are human rights. We should be providing this for everyone. And if that makes me a socialist, well, so be it. But I just believe that we need to re-envision this because it's not working. And when I talk with my clients and they talk with me about their clients, people are really stressed. They're really at the edge of survival. So many people have lost their homes. They have lost their jobs. They've just lost their livelihood. Of course, it's brought about some innovation too. People have had to change and shift and move themselves into the online space. And we're now going to be embracing that we really actually do have a global economy, that what happens in one country is going to affect others, and that's just how it's going to be. It's been that way for a really long time, but there's been this sense, I think, with a lot of countries that like, we need to be nationalists and we need to take care of our people first. Well, we really are a human race. The Seven of Pentacles comes out, the Seven of Earth. And this reminds us that there are different seasons, right? So you have spring, you have summer, which is, when the fruit is bared, autumn, when you do the harvest, and then you have winter, when everything's dormant. And here where I live right now in North America, it's in the winter time. And, we've just been on fire. We've just been on fire. Literally, there's been fires. The beginning of 2020 started with many fires in California and the West Coast. Then there was, all of the protesting and rioting and things that went on. And then there was the insurrection at the Capitol. I mean, our country has literally been on fire, and we have been so ungrounded. Our chakra system as a country and as individuals is not in this place. It's not aligned. And you see that the snake is really holding the heart space, right? This is the heart space. And gosh, we could really use a little bit more of that. We could use a little bit more of loving compassion, of trying to find and bridge a place of unity. And when I say unity, I don't mean that I think everyone should be the same. We are supposed to be diverse. That's why we're created this way. We have to find our unity within our diversity. We have to learn how to appreciate the diversity, how not to need to make other people be like myself, look like myself, believe like myself, and yet still operate in a conscious, collective, calm way. Have debate, absolutely, but how do we do that in a way that is respectful and uplifting and finding common ground? When it's my way or the highway, it just doesn't work very well. I'm talking to myself because I've been in that space in the past. I've just, I've had that in relationships. I've had that in the workforce, where I was like, no, this is the way it needs to be. And it's great to have a strong belief. It's great to have that activist spirit. But sometimes when we get stuck in that place, it holds us into space where we can't see possibilities. We can't be open to what else is there. And where we're going eventually is the Queen of Pentacles, right? This is the Queen. So it is the rising of the feminine, the divine feminine. And she has been stuffed down and suppressed for so long, the feminine, honoring women, honoring not only women who are women on the external, but that feminine nature inside of us, our deeply loving, caring, nurturing, emotional center, that intuitive part of ourselves. Everything has been so hyper-focused on the masculine way of living life. And now we're being asked to, not only in our economic systems, but also with our planet, to really honor Mother Gaia, to honor, you see, there's all this diversity here, right? There's all this diversity. And it's meant to be that way. But we also are unified. We have this unified vision. And when we come into Queen energy, Queen is about not only reaping the benefits of the world that we live in, but also having responsibility for it. Actually taking responsibility, utilizing your gifts, doing something to make a difference, donating, volunteering, picking up something that needs to be done and just saying, I'm going to take care of that. This is the Queen energy that we're moving towards. And we have some ways to get there. As I said, I feel like we're just, we're adolescents with that. So this card came out, which is you are healing. We are healing on an individual level. So many, whether you are dealing with a health issue at this time, whether you're healing from the loss of a family member who lost their life to COVID. Several of my clients told me that that was the case this week. If you are healing from a relationship that did not make it through quarantine, right? There were many of those, many dissolving of partnerships through that process. If you are healing your inner fear-based response around money and around abundance and around whether you're going to be nurtured and cared for, if you are healing with your parents and your family system and looking at things that happened to you when you were a child and how that's impacted you and how you've carried on those patterns and what you want to do differently. There's just such compassion here for this journey, and we have much more of this to do. It's an ongoing process. And it takes whatever time it takes for each person. It takes whatever time it takes for our country. Sometimes healing looks like articles that I read. I write and I read on medium.com. It's a great site if you love great writing. And I see people expressing their rage around how racism has impacted their life as a Black or brown person. I see people expressing what it's like to be transgendered. I see people expressing their rage around the way that the current administration has operated over the last 4 years. Healing looks like a lot of different things, right? It could look like, I feel really numb right now, and I just need to lay down and sleep. This morning, healing for me was running a hot bath, putting candles, and listening to soft music and just immersing myself in the water, just baptizing myself and letting all those old energies roll off. And I've done that quite frequently through this process. Finding your own healing practices is so, so important at this time. I wanted to bring forward connect with fire, right? And you see here that there are people sitting around the bonfire. This reminds me of when I was a child and we went camping, and sometimes around the bonfire there's storytelling, right? Fire is our protection. Fire brings light to the darkness. Fire can be used to bring people together and nurture and community. Fire can burn everything down. Sometimes we need one of those energies, sometimes we need another. And sometimes it can be incredibly destructive, as we've seen. So you may be sitting around the campfire and there's stories being told and laughter being shared. There might be musical instruments being played, or sometimes it's great to just sit in communion with other people, listen to the crackle of the flames, look up and notice the stars in your place in the universe as you hear the owl spirit calling out from the forest. And there's a lot of ways that fire can be really healing. We could even write down something that we want to release and put it into a cauldron and watch it go up into flames. And so I invite you to look at, on a personal level and on an individual level, and also on a collective level, where have we been on fire? Where has that fire been beneficial? Where's that passion and excitement and joy for the work? Where has that been the fire of anger and rage? Where has that been the fire of burning and releasing? Just noticing those things and seeing what's there. And we talked a little bit about protection. So this card came forward this morning as well. And I believe this is Archangel Gabriel, who is the angel of protection, bringing in courage and strength, surrounding us with the golden light, the golden ray. That's also wisdom. It's spiritual wisdom. And I mean, we need all of those things right now. We need all of those things right now, right? This is protection on a higher level. This is not about the physical plane. This is about our connection to all that is. And knowing that regardless of what's happening on this plane, we are loved, we are nurtured, we are an eternal flame, we are an eternal soul, and we are protected and guarded. And there are, whether that's for you, ancestor spirits, loved ones who've passed on, angels, whatever that is, tuning into this energy and ensuring, and you see that in the Capitol building, we have activated our military and our National Guard. And in many states, they have boarded up, government buildings in preparation for this inauguration, which, we are affirming that will go through in a peaceful manner. We need a peaceful transition of power. But we need to make sure as well. We need to make sure we need to protect ourselves. And the hero card came forward as well, the hero card. So there's, again, we have the fire, the protection, the spiritual protection. This is the earthly protection, that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of others. The bear spirit comes here. The bear is a very fairly calm animal most of the time, unless it's provoked, right? And so this would be true probably of most empaths. It's like if you let us be, and we're just there, we're taking action, but if you provoke us, we're going to rise. And this is what's been happening, is we've seen the rise of more and more people feeling the need to speak out. We need to be careful about this hero tendency that we think that we are here to save the world, or that anyone else is here to save the world. No one has that responsibility. And I say that because I grew up in a Christian household and I had a good experience with Christianity. And of course, that is the sole tenet of the Christian faith, is that Jesus is the savior. For me personally, and Jesus ushered in supposedly the age of Pisces. And now that time is releasing. And that doesn't mean that I'm encouraging anyone to release your Christian faith. I believe that everyone should choose whatever that looks like. But I believe some of the messaging around saviors and rescuers and heroes has gotten a little off track. It's gotten us to a place where we think that we have to martyr ourselves in order to do this work. And we don't. As a matter of fact, we need to actually do our self-care. We need to actually make sure that we are taken care of financially, physically, all of these things before we can actually help others. Otherwise, we're not any good for that, right? I want to bring in this one, which is make a vision board. So I've done this multiple times in my life. It's a really powerful exercise, and we could do it as a collective. And I know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to be outlining, and they've been outlining, a vision for where we're going as a country, and those things will emerge over time. Pardon me. Those things will emerge over time. Their vision is not just the two of them, but it's a vision that it will be co-created by many people in the government, as well as Americans, as well as people from other countries. Where are we going? Where do we want to be? Who do we want to be? How do we want to identify leadership? For me, I believe that the greatest legacy that the two of them could leave is a complete analysis of how power is distributed in our country. I know we've had it since, the 1700s here, and it's worked. But then obviously there are loopholes. The current administration illuminated the fact that there are loopholes. And so what is our vision for leadership going forward? Is everything that our founding fathers still, is everything they set and established, is that still relevant? Or do we need to make some changes? Do we need to put some limitations on the amount of power that government officials can hold in protection of the American people and of the world? Especially when you are an influencer, as the United States is, and you put yourself out there as such, then you have the responsibility to walk the talk, right? You can't just say, well, here's how it should be, or do as I say, but not what I do. That got revealed so much. I mean, other countries already felt that way about us, but now they really feel that way about us. And there's, this collective shame, like, wow, look at what we've become, and look at our reputation. Well, this isn't about our reputation, right? This isn't about, how do people view Americans? This is about, who do we really want to be? And how do we stand up? And we actually demonstrate that through not just words, but actions, right? And part of that is love. Part of that is love, I believe personally that there is only one force in the universe, and that is love. We then bring love through us as human beings, as spiritual beings having a human experience, and we get to decide what we do with that. We have free will. So we can transform love into hate, into a discrimination, into oppression, into a lot of the things, into abuse. Like we can do that. We have that ability, and we see it, but we also have the ability to channel that in a pure way and to continue to bring that out. And love isn't just anemic, as Dr. Martin Luther King said. Love has to be a combination of love and power. not the love of power, but being powerful, embodying that love. And sometimes love looks like activism, and often it does. And sometimes love looks like holding healthy boundaries, and often it does. And sometimes love looks like compassion and forgiveness. And sometimes it looks like justice. And so we need to embody, this singular energy and really determine where we're going. And so then we get to this card here, believe, right? So let's talk about unicorns for a minute. Loved unicorns as a child. It's like unicorns. I mean, who doesn't like that, right? This idea of this mythical creature, beautiful, glowing creature that's focused, right? It's focused. But that horn is coming out of the third eye, right? The horn is both an antenna and a transmitter of divine downloads, right? So when we become a unicorn, and a unicorn's like, well, it's something rare, right? So sometimes empaths feel like we're rare. We feel like, it's rare that someone actually cares about other human beings. It's rare that, we're able to actually hold compassion for the world. It's rare that someone isn't selfish or just trying to get what they can get. I disagree with that, though. I disagree with that. I mean, what if unicornism is on the rise, right? What if this idea, that people are awakening on a mass level, and it's been going on for many, many years, hundreds of years, even thousands of years, and even more so since 2012. And then this particular spiritual battle that we just engaged in caused so many people to awaken to who they are, to see that there's something much larger, to believe that there is a different place that we can go. Are we probably going to see the complete dissolving of these old systems and stepping into something new and having peace and harmony on earth like immediately in our lifetime? Probably not, if we're just being honest about it. But we are here to take this first step, right? We're here to have one foot on the ground. We're grounded in our existing reality. We're saying, here's what's really happening. We're not going to look away. We're not going to spiritually bypass. We're not going to allow racist, sexist, oppressionist policies to continue to take place. We are going to stand, firmly in the earthly plane. And yet we still need to have a belief. We still need to raise that hoof. We still need to say there is a step forward. We need to listen to our inner knowing, right? Here's the horn. We need to listen to that knowing. We need to receive. We need to receive and do things like what I'm doing here, whatever way you can, like express your voice, talk about what you're receiving, put it out there in the collective. There is new hope. There's new hope. We have a long way to go, right? It's not going to magically happen, right? It's not going to magically happen. But if we don't believe, if we don't have any belief that things can be different, then we just sink down into apathy and we let it all go to hell in a handbasket. And, I'm sure after this last year, some people said, why not? What the hell? Why are we still going to get up and fight? Why are we still going to activate our spiritual warrior? Because it's really, really essential. Because it's really, really essential. We didn't just come here to lounge around and Netflix. We came here to contribute. We came here to contribute. And so today I honor that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are immensely contributing. They're stepping into such a large contribution. Wow, what a calling that they followed. I mean, it takes a lot of nerve to say, okay, I'm going to try to run this country and I'm going to try to lead it in a direction that it needs to go. And I'm going to unwind some of the really harmful and hurtful and detrimental things that have happened over the last 4 years and see if there's a way that we can find common ground and tackle some really important issues. But you who are listening out there, you don't have to step into that large of a role. I mean, first of all, leadership begins within, begins with self, right? Are you living the life that is nurturing and uplifting your sensitivity You know, are the people and the places and the environments and the activities you're engaging in, are you consciously choosing that? Or are you just falling into that? You know, this is where it begins, is inside of us. And then it extends out to our inner circle, our family, our friends, our soul family. How are we showing up in that arena? How are we learning and growing and learning how to set healthy boundaries and learning how to communicate and learning how to have conscious relationships? And then what are we doing in our community, whether that's volunteering, donating, showing up in the workplace and being that, you know, really compassionate, empathic presence and saying, yes, we need to make decisions in the business world, out in our community, with organizations, with, you know, systems and structures that actually work for everyone involved. And then there's leadership to legacy, which is, what is it that you uniquely have to offer, that you have as a gift, as a skill, as a point of mastery that you can pass on to other generations? Because as I stated, we probably will not see the level of change that most of us would like to see in our lifetime. So when we set these foundations, we need other people to carry it on. We need to support them and nurture them. We need to stop the war between the generations. I mean, oh my gosh, seriously. Again, it's one of those artificial dividing lines. Well, if you were born after this date, okay, well, what does that mean? Yes, we were shaped by the collective experiences that we have. Absolutely, there's collective energy. And yet, there are gifts and resources and things that we can learn from each other. So I hope this was really helpful for you, my friends. I just encourage you to celebrate tomorrow and also recognize that we have a long way to go. We are just beginning. You're not alone. There are many, many other empaths and light workers and mystics out there who are doing wonderful work. You just have to do the small things every single day, and it ripples out and it makes a difference. And that's what each of us are called to. So I hope that you can hold belief and to know that you are not the only unicorn empath out there in the world, and you are not responsible for saving the whole damn thing. It's time for us to take that off our shoulders. It's time to do our healing. It's time to create a vision. It's time to sit around the campfire in our empath communities and connect. It's just time. It's time. And it's time to support those in greater leadership to a larger number of people who we believe are moving us in the right direction. And it's time to keep and hold them accountable for that as well. So there's a lot of promises that get made on a campaign trail, but are they really going to do what they say they're going to do? We shall see.